welcome back to the channel. Behind me you can see really sad version of baby blue. This is actually a Supra. Doesn't look like it right now. We cut the front end off of it, but the reason is because it was in a drift train accident. You can watch the footage right here. After seeing that footage, you can see that I was kind of sandwiched between a couple cars. That ended my day, by the way. I got back, I was pretty upset about the car, and I cut the front off, and I thought to myself that I would be working on it much sooner than I am. It's been many months since then. That was before the FD season started. But we need the car to be working again. So mainly what it needs is a new tube front, and then new body kit, new headlights, and we usually refresh the car every year and a half. So we're gonna go through it and fix what it needs, and we're also gonna paint it, and we're gonna fit a new kit and change some stuff up. We're gonna do a couple part series to show you guys how we're gonna rebuild this. I have to rework some of these base plates because that one's not gonna work for what we need. We cut it off, replace it, and then start a new tube front, and we'll show you guys as we build off of this from where we're at. And then if you walk around the car, this side's not so bad, but we're gonna replace the rear bumper. It's kind of falling apart after a couple of years. The whole new kit will get fitted. There's some new doors that are gonna go on this car, and the inside will stay exactly the same. The functionality of the car, mostly the same. It's gonna get a new treadstone intercooler. We gotta get a new power steering cooler because that one's damaged. This door was super messed up, but like I said, there's new doors coming, so you'll see. Stuff like this, not much you can do with that because that could always happen again on a drift car. As long as the side skirt will fit, kind of won't. Maybe like slide hammer, pull some of that out. Whatever I gotta do, I'll share with you guys and we can rebuild this together. Let's get started on that. You guys just watched me grind that smooth. The reason I ground it smooth is so I could trace it basically, as you saw me do with the template paper. Bring it over here. Since it's a mirror image of itself, we can just use one template. Either way you made it would flip from one side to the other and it would work. So that's what we have going here. This piece of metal is 3/16 plate that we're going to use. It's kind of overkill for a base plate, but as you saw, there was some heavy damage done to that 1/8 inch plate that we used before here, and it even ripped it. As you can see, we'll zoom in. And the reason it ripped is because it had bent the whole tube front over from that side of the car. Driver's side got pushed over to the passenger side, and then I yanked it back with a forklift because I was like getting shit out of the way so that I could cut it with a Sawzall. I don't think we have footage of that, so I was just angry and I did it the day I got back from the track and was like mad that the car got wasted for no reason. I'm gonna cut this, then we'll move the car from where it sits here over to where a lot more work will get done over there, because we need to go up and down on a lift is the reason I would say that. Possibly could work on it here a little longer because we got more metal work to do, but what's gonna happen, just let me run down real quick. I need to make a list, put it here on the windshield with blue tape, but I gotta wipe that down a little bit. What's gonna happen is a lot of metal work with the tube front, and then once it gets closer to the final stuff, we'll put the body panels on to line up. I want to make the tube front somewhat removable in case something stupid like this were to ever happen in the future. At least the upper support could be removed. It'll kind of grasp like where the headlights go, where, let's see, like headlights, top of the intercooler, might even come down to hold where the oil cooler is. Just like the most minimal things will be on the really heavy duty structure, which will not be removable, which will go to those plates that I'm building right now for these plates. And the way that Jeff had built this years ago, I didn't love it, don't like it. I will never do it that way. So you'll see as I build it, it's gonna just be like a small hoop that comes down here, but strong enough to jack the car up and down off of. That's the only part that's not removable. The other stuff will be removable. And we'll make it as light and simplistic as we can. I mean, it just needs to hold up some body panels and some headlights, basically, hood pins. Okay, let's get back to it. up, everyone? So we're here in Russia. I'm learning a little bit of Russian.
Привет, друзья.
So I'm not quite there yet.
Mark, say привет, друзья.
Привет, Before we get into that, look at what we moved over here, guys. We started working on it, and I got a day and a half in or whatever I did, and then nothing happened. We'll connect that footage to right now, and we're gonna see if we can make some actual progress on this. So we found these fenders from 2020, never got used, but they had been painted to match the livery of Big Blue. They were fitted. Let's hope the holes line up somewhat close. This car is not the straightest, but hey, drift cars aren't like that, are they? They're just bent because you use them. Race cars are created equal, huh? Okay, got sidetracked. We're gonna set these fenders on. That's gonna help us see how much space we have. We might bring a front bumper down and kind of just set it up on blocks. And I'm gonna start making this design here. I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet. We're gonna use some 1.5 inch DOM tubing, cut it, bend it, weld it in place. There's 2 to 3 ways we could do it, but we just need it to be strong and rebuildable and not kind of overkill, but also I don't want to build it in a way that's just gonna bend like how it did last time. So see how that goes. We'll get to this. I'll wear a head camera so you guys can see what's going down. So here we're measuring for the tube front where we're gonna have the lower jacking point. We're trying to measure how long the overall bar would be, and then we're gonna cut the bar. It's 1.5 inch DOM tubing. You can see there I'm marking the end where I'm gonna cut it. Gonna cut it in the chop saw here. And then after that I'll clean up the ends so that I can slide it in the tube bender without it catching an edge. I'm gonna clean the tube off. It's pretty dirty. Oh, Yevgeny! Then here I'm marking my bend, and then I'm measuring how much ram is left on the tube bender, because then it's easy to replicate the next time. Holding it in place, see if I have enough bend on it, which I did, and now I'm marking where I'm going to have my second bend start. See how I wrap the tape measure around? Then I have a full circumference of a Sharpie mark, which then it won't matter how I slide it into the tube bender, I'm still going to be able to see that Sharpie mark. Lubing up the die there. Strapping it in for the second bend, then I'll start measuring the ram again on the tube bender so then I can get an exact bend for, and see, I take notes for my second time when I throw it in to do the opposite side. I can just copy the amount of ram that was used on the first bend, comes out symmetrical that way. And as you can see, I keep walking back to the car because you got to double check your work. And so if this tube goes wrong, then I have to start over, throw it away, waste of time, but I can go off most of my notes and modify them. But in this case, I did not have to do that, so I'm cutting the second end of it. Then we check, lands on the base plates, and we're good to go. So there you have how we made that multi-bend tube front there. This is the intercooler, and it's also going to hold the oil cooler. We mock everything in place so that we know where it's going to go before we bolt on the front bumper and make sure we have room for all the components needed. So today we're here to talk about Torco brake clean. This is the best smelling brake clean ever. I'm about to clean something with it. Citrus vanilla. Hey, sir, stop coughing. We bent that tube. He likes drama, so he's pretending like it's worse than it is.
It's really strong.
In reality, it just smells good. So we bent the tube. That's like our lower hoop of this restructured tube front that we're gonna do. Next thing, Mark is bringing a hood down. We had a Cybone hood for this car. So Mark's gonna get that hood ready. We took the dump tubes off. We don't have to cut a hole in the hood yet. We'll figure that out later. I'm gonna bend this top tube now, which that one should be easy because we've done that before on this car and the other car and like customer cars, so we have notes on that one. Whereas this tube down here, as you guys saw as I was doing it, took a little bit of time because I kind of had to like figure out how and where to make the bends, but it came out good. We didn't have to do it twice, so that's a positive. We only had to bend it one time. We'll do the top one, put the hood on, and then we can even place headlights in areas, or like what we'll do when we're doing a tube front is we'll like tape headlights in and tape the front bumper on and like put wood under it to hold it in place so that you can like climb under and like set the parts. Like as you can see, we were mocking things up because if you just go to town building a tube structure, you're gonna regret it very soon into that going to town on there, because You got a lot of stuff that needs to fit in here, and you got to think very strategically of how you're going to get everything to go, be easy to go on and off. You got to think a lot when you're doing like full front end fabrication, stuff like this, and lining everything up. So I'm going to get back to bending tubing with some brake clean, and I'll catch you guys in a bit. Gotta get this piece of tubing clean. Okay, so here we're gonna have headlight mounting tabs and tie in all the front bars together where they need to support each other, and then make tabs to hold the fenders in place along with headlights, as you can see. So I'm like getting the fitment just right. Put the intercooler in place so that make sure it clears headlights where it's gonna be. Later I'll make mounts for that. It's a lot of on and off, and just making sure everything's in the correct place so that everything lines up and looks, ooh, what's up, Turbo? He just checks on me, make sure I'm okay. Making supports and then welding them, just tack welding them in place, and then I'm redialing in the fitment on that lower bar. Renee helped me line it up for a second. I'm over here doing a new tube front and fitting some fenders and front bumper, headlights, that kind of cool stuff. But I wanted to share with you guys, we made some more fabrication parts. As you know, we have the cup and bung solution. This is a cup, this is an M6. We have an M6 and M8 for welding stuff to aluminum, but we didn't have it in steel, so now I've made it in steel. So as you can see, that's a steel bung that's a M6 weld on. The difference between an M6 and an M8 is either on a cup, it'd be the size of the hole where it goes through. They're both the same overall, the size of it, but it's just the hole for the hardware you're gonna use, or that's on the cup. And on the bung, if we take a look here, this is M6 1.0 and that's M8 125, so it would give you the choice of, this could hold more weight, depends what you're building. It all depends what you're building. But let's run over here to what I'm working on, and I'll show you an example. Real quick, here's an example. It's just tacked in place, and everything's tacked in place. We're not done here. So I could weld, MIG weld, you could TIG weld it. This is an M6, but you could weld the bung directly to some tubing or whatever you're building. Before, we only offered it in aluminum, which would be used for like intercoolers or like this oil cooler, which I'm gonna see how, this is one of my bungs from a couple years ago or whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna rebuild this, so this is gonna kind of get pushed up here like that. Probably weld another M6 bung here, and then I just have to connect like a tube across. And I usually don't just make it like one thing. I'll like connect it, tie these two in, and go back so that you can remove like your whole little mount. And I'll do the same on this one. Then I also got to weld a jacking point down here. I got more reinforcing to do with more tubing. We're building all this stuff. I'm trying to film as it happens for you guys, but I wanted to share that the steel M8 and M6 weld bungs with cups are now available. They're gonna be on our website, so check them out. So I'm still doing the same thing here, doing tabs and supporting that front upper bar. And then I'm just cutting the length each side, and I'm making it so that whole front upper bar is removable. And then you see I just keep pushing the car over to the driver's side a little bit because it wants to wander to the passenger side. So getting it dialed in, pushing it over, and holding it in place. It's like a lot of back and forth and a lot of fitment, but once you get everything in place and tacked in, it'll hold itself right where it needs to be. It's Sunday and it's late and I'm at the shop still. Been working on this car a lot. Still got a lot to do, but if you look in here, there's a lot of metal work that happened over the last 2 days. So you see the little mini structure down there, everything's held in place again. Intercooler's nice and tight. This guy, oil cooler, is in there. Still need to mount power steering, but I'm gonna change that cooler out because you can see there's a little dent in the side there. I'm gonna change that out, and I have to add in, if I can fit it, I wanna add in like a oil filter relocation, because see where the oil filter sits right now? I'd like to not have it be just a traditional right there off the block because it's kind of messy, spills oil everywhere. So cool thing is though, the hard parts are done, which would be making the upper tube front structure there, the lower one that's underneath kind of that you see that goes around, then like where the bash bar bolts to those plates. And on this car, since there's no frame rail, it's just kind of a crappy setup. Ideally, you could have it like do a hoop like kind of the rear of my Pro car does, where it holds it in the radiator in the back of the car. But if you did that, then you'd end up pushing this intercooler super far forward, and then it's kind of in the way of everything. Not in the way, but if you were to wreck or whatever, it's way out in front. And so I just made it simple and completed it. There's a lot of cups and bungs everywhere because I use those to save time, and I just MIG welded everything. You see the arms going out to it. There's a bash bar in there. So the hard part, which is bending tubing, because you have to do like math and think about stuff. I actually have notes for pretty much every tube I bent except the bottom like lower piece. I don't have notes for that, but I have notes on most of the other stuff, so I could just replicate a bash bar, replicate this upper front bar, and then the other ones. This bar down here, there's a little, call it a chin bar that kind of holds this, so if you get going like super fast, your bumper can't try and go underneath the car. All that stuff is now done. All the hard stuff, I still have to make headlight tabs, bend a little hoop thing here. This piece, I get one of these stock ones every time, and then I cut the edges off, but then I can, it's kind of dusty because I was grinding metal next to it and it sat upstairs for a while, but it's a new part, and I just mount that up under here and it'll hold onto this part of the bumper, which helps that be kind of easy for holding the bumper. And then I'll make these little like tabs here to hold this, but it'll basically be right next to that. Makes that pretty easy. So I have to do that. Me and Mark will work on some of that stuff, and then I also have to, that oil filter relocation thing. So there's a couple things. Then Mark was gonna do the other stuff like intercooler piping. I was gonna let him do all that stuff. Also cold air intake stuff and this intercooler piping. We still got, I would say, 2 more days, full 2 days of fab left, because I still need to blast all this stuff out of the way, finish weld stuff that's not finish welded. Like you can see, that's not finish welded. There's like 10 areas like that. We got to mount side skirts, still doing the repairs to like where it got smashed over here. This will never be perfect, which I don't care if it is perfect. Need a skirt to fit on there decent, so that when the side skirt's on, it makes it look perfect when everything's close. Hood pins. We got to do hood pins, cut a hole in the hood for the dump tube. So there's still maybe more than 2 days, but for sure 2 full days. But tell me that doesn't look pretty good. Baby blues never looked that good. Fenders will get painted, don't worry. Everything will be painted. We don't have a color choice yet, but I'm excited to have this car back. It's gonna be pretty excited itself. I'm sure it's been wanting to drive. Later, we'll probably do a refresh on the back of the car, but for now, leave it as is. Cause I didn't build that back structure how it should be built. Jeff had built that years back. We need to make it nicer. One day we'll do that, but for now, just get it back going, get some more seat time in it. All right guys, I need to go home and go to sleep because I've been here pretty much the whole weekend, no days off. We are here at JV Auto Body. I'm gonna leave you with JP, and that's it. You don't get to know what color it's gonna be. See ya.